Depending on who you talk to, either new media and Web 2.0 will see the end of traditional print media as we know it, or our love of newspapers and magazines is so strong and ingrained that they're here to stay, no matter what the new media revolution throws at it. So who should we believe? Can blogs, Google, the BBC News website, and even Twitter and other social media outlets really put the nail in the coffin for our favourite tabloids and broadsheets? I suspect it's too early to say, but that's not stopped many people having a go. And one particularly insightful report, published in January this year, is putting forward the idea that traditional journalism is indeed under threat, and the reason is something we can all relate to. Money. If you think about it, it all makes perfect sense. Irrespective of what the underlying trends and factors are, it all comes down to if there's any money in it, just like any other market. Challenges, What's Happening to Our News, is published by Reuters and written by Andrew Currer, who, my research tells me, spent his spare time conquering his fear of heights by learning how to skydive. I like him already. So what does the report say? Well, at 176 pages it's detailed, so we can only summarise it here. But the gist of it is this. There have never been so many sources of news available as the distinctions between sound, text and video converge. Whilst news organisations can't avoid it, it's not entirely clear how they'll make a profit from it either. Apart from the BBC News, publicly funded by the licence fee, the inherent characteristics of new media are undermining the business models that pay for the news. That's because some people, though not necessarily me, are unwilling to pay for their news, preferring instead to read selected parts of the news online. RSS feeds and news alerts can deliver an individual, tailor-made news agenda, leading to the automation of news in small, bite-sized chunks. The trouble is that news, tailor-made for the individual, does not have the same advertising value that news targeted at a much larger audience has. Even so, the internet is grabbing an ever-increasing share of advertising expenditure, but most of this is going to paid search results, controlled by new media companies like Google, who collate and aggregate the news, but do not create it. So, whilst a couple of tins of beans, or a ready meal for one, might make you look like a sad, lonely git at the supermarket checkout, news for one at home means you're up to speed and moving with the times. News publishers are jostling to attract clicks and secure top billing on search engine results. The strategy is therefore to follow the clickstream, to see what consumers are looking at and in what quantities, meaning a news agenda driven by the masses. If traditional media pulled in the news, then new media surely pushes it out. Andrew Currer's report says that publishers are in danger of turning into digital windsocks, where the professional integrity of journalism could well suffer. Suggested possibilities for redressing the balance include targeted tax breaks for public interest news gathering, a wider scope for charitable funding of news-related activities, or even a voluntary form of digital kite mark. So, in summary, does alternative new media pose any serious challenges to traditional media? Well, yes it does. There is the threat of weakening editorial standards as the news is shaped more and more by the masses, which in turn could lead to a reduction in spending in traditional news gathering and investigative journalism. However, despite these seemingly inevitable conclusions, I still think it's too early to say how much of this will bear truth and to what degree. Even Andrew Currer in his report says that the timetable for these issues is debatable. As for me, I'm already feeling nostalgic about traditional print media. The traditional Sunday papers after a traditional Sunday roast is one of the best traditions ever to come out of Fleet Street, and I for one hope it's here to stay. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'd like to have a look and see what's on today's front page.